Welcome, everybody. As you can see by that opening video, we've got a special treat for you today, and a few folks way cooler than me. We've got Kirby, Chambliss, aerobatic Red Bull pilot, and the Red Bull Air Force team, including Jon and Sean from that team, that will be sharing with you a little bit later. So first of all, I wanted to say thank you for joining us. This is our 4th annual virtual pilot lounge. We miss seeing our volunteers' faces in our office and the patients that we're serving, but we're excited to share a few updates that Angel Flight is going through. It's been a crazy 3 months since we started these virtual pilot events. We are so fortunate to hear from our past guests and experts, from flight safety to infectious disease experts to some of our volunteers and patients themselves. So I want to thank you again for making time to join us, and thank our guests for joining us. We have resumed flying passenger flights. For those of you who didn't know, it is going well and requests are coming in more frequently. Obviously, we monitor the situation, the COVID situation closely, and we're following the latest news of increased positive tests and increased hospitalizations, and something that we'll continue to monitor to make sure our patients and volunteers are safe, and again, take the lead from our partners and our experts in those areas. I want to, first of all, thank you to all who have volunteered, both flying passengers and flying missions and driving missions for those in need. And I want to thank you for those that have decided not to do that too, in the interest of your own personal safety and your team safety. It is a humbling experience to be part of Angel Flight and see so many people step up to be part of that solution and the need. And likewise, I'm always inspired by Angel Flight, and in this time of, we always hear with healthcare equity in our country, right? Some people in different parts of our country don't have access to the healthcare that the rest of us do, and that's our core need. But while doing that, we have a really diverse staff, board of directors, volunteer group, and obviously patient group. And during these times of where equality continues to be an issue, we want to continue learning and serving through that, and feel fortunate to do that. So thank you for those of you that are working towards those same ends. So I just want to highlight quickly kind of some of the things that we've been doing in the past. You guys have heard from our partnerships with other nonprofits serving through COVID. And obviously our healthcare partners are among those, but in partnership with Love from Strangers, volunteers all over Utah and almost in all of our other states, volunteer pilots have flown in, and we've done over 100 flights that has delivered over 45 tons of PPE and family care to 11 healthcare facilities that serve the 8 tribal community services across Navajo, Hopi, Zuni, White Mountain Apache, and San Juan Paiute reservations. So awesome job, congratulations. That includes 8,300 gowns, 154,000 gloves, 8,500 N95 masks for our hospitals, 493 gallons of water, 88,000 masks, and 749 gallons of hand sanitizer for those tribal communities. So please join me in virtually congratulating all those volunteers and those other nonprofits that made that possible, and that we can help those communities that include those areas and many other rural areas as well. We're also really proud to announce that we've arranged over 100 donated Alaska Airlines flights and over 25 Southwest Airlines flights for medical personnel that were traveling to serve on the front lines. You may have seen some of those on our social media pages. Those people are my heroes. They're doing God's work there on the front lines, and we were really pleased for our partners to be able to help us serve them in that way. Again, we're back up to flying about 10 to 15 flights per day for the patients that had to pause their health care because of the COVID emergency. So we thank those volunteers that have stepped up and helped us meet that need. So I'm just really proud of our volunteer, our team here at Angel Flight, our donors and supporters for helping us sustain through this difficult period of time. And just want to thank you again. I know you guys are here for the real show, and these guys that are way cooler than me, and we'll get that, but I just want to say thank you. And I'll take this time too, if you see right down there in the middle, there's a chat and Q&A button. You've been seeing some links come out over that chat. Please take a look at those. You'll see right now all the different ways that you can help. We're a volunteer organization, and there's nothing more valuable than lending your time and skill to help others. So that's always the most valuable thing anyone can do for our organization. So thank you for volunteering, or if you want to volunteer more, please let us know or sign up. You can donate. As you know, we lost our major fundraising season this year, Endeavor Awards, which actually the Red Bull Air Force team was recognized at last year. We have been fundraising to make sure that we can sustain through this difficult time period and then grow into it as well, as the anticipated need for increased flights to and from healthcare will increase. So thank you for those that have donated. If you'd like to donate, our campaign ends next week, and thanks to Alex Polvey, we've had a really generous match of $30,000. So anyone that donates up to that amount will be matched by Alex. So thank you, Alex, and thank you for considering donating. And then obviously these are tough times, so we understand if you can't volunteer or donate, but please share with your communities, with your family and friends, church groups, your circles of influence. Please share what Angel Flight's doing and the opportunities to support us. We'd appreciate that as well. And you'll see over here our Facebook, Instagram, and social accounts that you can do that. So without any further ado, I would like to welcome our honored guest today, Kirby Chambliss and the Red Bull Air Force team, including Jon and Sean, here to speak with us. For those of you who don't know, Kirby is one of the best aerobatic pilots in the world. He's a 5-time winner of the U.S. National Aerobatic Championship and a former men's freestyle world champion. He's also only one of 2 American pilots ever to win the Red Bull Air Race Championship. The Red Bull Air Force skydiving team members, Jon and Sean, if you guys haven't seen these, and if you were with us at Endeavor Awards or caught it on our socials, you saw these guys skydive in to downtown LA to the Science Center and land full with tuxedos on and ready for the party. They have assembled the most accomplished and experienced aviation experts on the planet. They specialize in highly coordinated aerial jump demonstrations and continually push the limits of human flight. We're gonna have some of their videos later, and they'll talk through some of those. So we're just super excited to have them with us and join us. And if you have questions for them, the Q&A link that's right here, click on that. We'll be getting to some Q&A here at the end. But first, I just want to say, Kirby, Jon, and Sean, guys, thanks so much for joining us. It's great to have you. You guys heard earlier me talk about all the PPE that we flew into the Navajo Nation. So Kirby Chambliss is a new volunteer pilot for Angel Flight. He joined, I believe, in March, and he's already flown some of those missions. So Kirby, let's talk about that now. Tell us a little bit about what those flights meant to you and why it was so important for you to volunteer for those flights.
Well, thank you, Josh. Thanks for having me us on. You know, for me, I mean, I'm super honored to be part of Angel Flight West. I mean, be able to go out and help the community. And, you know, right now, I'm not doing a lot. You know, a lot of the air shows have been canceled. So, you know, basically, I'm unemployed for a little while, but I'm actually enjoying that, spending a little time with the family, and then being able to do these missions. And it's great. I mean, you see people in need, and to be able to go out there and help them. So it makes me feel good. I love to go out and fly anyway. And so, yeah, it's just been a really good experience for me. And I, you know, invite everybody to volunteer.
Awesome. Thanks, Kirby. And there's some pictures here of your flight. You had some special cargo there. Can you tell us a little bit about what you were delivering to the Navajo Nation?
Yeah, so the first time is funny because, you know, they said, oh, we have 8 bags that we'd like for you to fly up to Gallup. And I was like, oh, I can carry more than that. And they're like, oh, well, that's all we have 8 bags and it's all set up to go. So I got there and the bags were about as big as I am. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, it was actually a struggle after we got them all in there just to get up into the cockpit. But yeah, so it was interesting though, the gowns, I think there was 500 some odd gowns, but they were all camo gowns, but hey, whatever works, right?
That's right. Yeah, it was neat. Gore-Tex, for those of you aware of that brand, donated the fabric and made those gowns especially to donate. So Kirby got to fly those over there. It was really cool. Kirby and Jon and Sean, but I'll start with Kirby. Can you tell us a little bit how you got into flying, how you got into flying aerobatics, and how you joined the Red Bull team?
Sure. You know, for me, I mean, there's pictures of me dragging airplanes around when I was 2 years old. I mean, I always wanted to fly. I always considered myself really fortunate because, you know, I knew what I wanted to do. And I feel like, you know, I'm born in the United States. If you're willing to sacrifice and work hard, you can be anybody you want to be. So I just had to go out and just, you know, figure out how to do it. And the way that I got into aerobatics, when I was 21, I was flying a business jet for La Quinta Motor Ends. And the chief pilot said, he's a smart guy. He's like, hey, if the jet ends up upside down with the boss on board, we want you to be able to turn it right side up without killing everyone. And like I said, I was 21 just a few years ago. And anyway, so I got into that and went out in an aerobatic airplane with an aerobatic instructor. We turned the airplane upside down. And I was like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. And, you know, it changed my whole life. And so I kind of dedicated everything about, you know, my flying was to aerobatics. I still went and flew for the airlines to try to make a living and to support my new habit, which was aerobatics.
That's cool. And Jon, welcome. If those of you don't know Jon, I got to meet Jon at Endeavor Awards last year. He's kind of the head coordinator for all their crazy coordinated aerial jumps. Jon, can you tell us a little bit how you got into this and, you know, how the Red Bull Air Force team started?
Yep. Yeah, it's been a long story now, but back in the mid 90s, I found the world of skydiving and fell in love with it and kind of never looked back. At 17, I started my skydiving career at a really young age. And by the time I was 21, I was lucky enough to meet Red Bull. They were in the States, kind of a few locations as test markets. The tests work, and Red Bull was growing like mad. So they wanted to expand the program, not just the aviation and air sports program, but just sports in general. So as well as Kirby, I was along for an amazing ride with the brand. They've supported us year after year. And whether it's jumping into like the great event we did in LA with you guys at Angel Flight West to an NFL game, we've been privileged to be able to travel the world and educate people on what we do and show them that it's a true athletic sport. It's not just a bunch of daredevils chasing adrenaline, that what we do is calculated and takes a lot of training.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. And for those of you watching at home, you can see some of those pictures right there on the screen. Sean was actually with us a little bit. Looks like we lost his feed. Sean is, I think, currently jumping in Lake Elsinore right now. So if he comes back on, I'll loop him back in. But we'll get to a few of these other questions. But before we get into the specific ones, I wondered, both Jon and Kirby, if you would talk a little bit about what this pause, you know, has meant to you and Red Bull. And, you know, Red Bull is unapologetic about inspiring others through aviation. And in a time where we all need a lot of inspiration, just wondered what kind of message you'd like to put out to your audience. And when you face times of uncertainty like these, what does it mean to you personally?
Yeah, for me, I mean, you know, Red Bull has been continuing to support us, and I really do appreciate that. Like Jon said, you know, we've been with them many years, and they've always been just great, you know. And so for like I said, for the support that I've gotten from them, it's been fantastic. And to have this opportunity, me and my family's kind of like, God, why are you still here? You know, I mean, I've traveled forever. You know, for the last 28 years, I've been gone, you know, and never home this much. And so my family's kind of like, oh, we're kind of tired of him. I wish you'd go. But no, I've been trying to spend more time with my family, and that's given me an opportunity to do that. You know, I kind of look at it as a positive thing too. You know, I do miss the flying. I miss, you know, performing at air shows. But you know, it is what it is right now. You know, everybody's just trying to do the best they can, and we're doing the same.
Awesome. Thanks, Kirby. How about you, Jon?
Yeah, for me, it's just, you know, it's a case in point on how wonderful a company is, Red Bull is, and the fact that partnering with you guys and bringing awareness to everything you guys are doing out there, it's very special. And like my role being a skydiver and jumping into the event, it's just a tiny little grain of sand compared to what you guys are doing, you know, across the country, which is amazing. But just being able to have a sponsor that supports myself and Kirby and the other athletes to be involved with you guys and draw a little, you know, you guys, just being able to be a part of that's really special to me. And it's kind of this story of our team being able to do things like this.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. We feel the same way. Not only is Kirby a volunteer for us, but the CEO of Red Bull North America is a volunteer pilot too. Stefan flies a number of Angel Flight missions, and Red Bull has always been super willing to help with whatever we need. And that culture that you guys have created there is one about, like I said, inspiring others and helping others. So I wanted to thank you for that. We have a couple cool videos that we're going to queue up, but because of the Zoom webinar limitations, it may not have audio. But if you guys wouldn't mind talking us through a little bit of these videos and what these jumps meant, I'll be quiet and just admire the video here while you guys talk us through this.
Well, that video there, was during our team training. We always do it at my house. It's really easy there. We have got waivered airspace, so the guys can just come out and we do our training and try to, come up with cool things in order to perform at the air show. And so the guys, I'm a buffoon skydiver. I like to jump a little bit too. And it's great because they give me an opportunity to jump with, some of the best skydivers in the world. And so I think they just put up with me. But anyway, we try to come up and just with some really cool stuff to have at the shows. And that's what we're doing there. And, good camaraderie, and we all enjoy stuff with each other, and we all get along. And so, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's really special to be able to do stuff like this. And that's where a lot of the really cool, innovative ideas come from, is having a sponsor like Red Bull that's like, yeah, we really don't have a purpose. Let's just get you guys together and experiment, and we'll see where it goes. And maybe, we'll come up with things that people haven't seen before. And, one thing we do at air shows a lot is the wingsuiters exit out of the helicopter, and then Kirby comes and flies circles around us, and it just wows the crowd, and it wows us every time we do it. That's one of the things that we found that we could do at one of these, what we call Kirby camps, where we just jump above his house and let all the ideas fly. No pun intended.
Kirby camps, I love it.
Yeah.
And so, John, I'm seeing a few of these different wingsuits, and you kind of got into it a little bit when you were planning the jump in Los Angeles last year. Mm-hmm. Can you tell the viewing audience all the different types of wingsuits and what they do and what purposes?
Yeah, the world of wingsuiting is pretty diverse. It can be as simple as wearing a very small wingsuit, which is simply just some fabric in between your arms and your legs that gives you a little bit more of a glide while you're flying. It basically takes if you just jumped slick in clothing, skydiving, you could get into a tracking position and fly across the sky. Well, wingsuits are that on steroids. And just like cars, motorcycles, airplanes, there's different levels of wingsuits that are from beginner all the way to very advanced, which create a lot of power, and they're very strong. And so whether you just want to go skydiving with it and keep it in a relatively safe environment, jump out of airplanes, have 3 minutes of what I love to call air therapy, of just flying around in space up there, or your goal, which a lot of skydivers are, is to get to a point where you can go jump them off mountains or fly close proximity to objects like we did for the Supermoon project in LA. It takes a long time, and one of the cool things about wingsuiting is you can't rush it. It's just like being a badass pilot like Kirby. You can't just sit in the seat and because you want to be good, you're good. You have to put in the time and jump, or fly, and it takes years and years. So it usually weeds out a lot of the people that are just kind of in because it's cool or they saw a YouTube video. So most people that you see in the sport that are doing it and doing it well have a lot of passion and dedication, which really shows in the sport.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a good analogy. Flying is, at least 5x on the ground that it is in the sky, and it sounds like maybe even more for jumping and wingsuiting. Is that right?
Yeah, and then you start taking it off a cliff and flying by mountains. It just keeps up leveling. Dangerously addictive, I say.
Yeah, and all the more reason you want to do careful planning, I'm sure. Yeah. Just a reminder, I see some questions popping up in chat. Please put those in the Q&A. We will get to as many of those as we can. And if we don't get them, we'll follow up with an email and make sure we get those as many answered as possible. So Thanks for those questions. Keep them coming. I want to queue up another video of Kirby's here and have Kirby talk us through this particular video, and then we'll ask some questions here. Can you see that?
I don't believe there's any audio with that, but we were in Dallas, and it was to promote one of the races there at in Fort Worth, and it was super fun. I mean, you get to go down, fly downtown, and the funny thing was is that later on I found out we had 831 911 calls. As you'll see, we're kind of flying downtown and flying in the fairgrounds, and you see the airplane go down with smoke, and it was all from an airplane that's crashed to somebody spraying anthrax to whatever. You know, we found out a lot later out. We had all the permissions and everything else. Is this somebody hadn't coordinated, I guess, with the 911 operators. But, you know, I'm down flying through the trees and under the bridges and stuff. And so you know, everybody will be able to see this also. That if you want the audio, you can pick it up on YouTube, just catch Kirby. But I had a blast doing it. Been able to do a lot of really cool things, you know, that we get permission to do, and that normally they'd put you in jail for. But this was all, you know, staged out, and it was all done legally, and like I said, it was a lot of fun to do. Even the police had a good time.
Yeah, pretty awesome project.
Yeah, that's incredible. So the real question is, have you actually been caught by the police for speeding in a vehicle that's not an airplane?
No, actually, you know, 27,000 hours, I've never had a violation somehow. But yeah, this was, like I said, fun. One of our guys, the guy that flies the helicopter for us, Aaron Fitzgerald, is impersonating an officer here. You'll see him walk out and give me the hat. I'm from Texas. So it was like, hey, welcome home, you know, after all this. But yeah, like I said, we just had a ball doing it, all 100% legal. You know, it's you have to stay that way, because if they see the Red Bull airplane, they're like, oh, who flies Red Bull? Oh, that's Kirby Chambliss. Everybody knows that. So yeah, no, but we did have a really good time doing it.
Awesome. So fun. All right, I'll get into some of the questions. We had some submitted ahead of time, so I'll start with those and then get into some of these other ones. First one's for Kirby, from Alex Barker, who's an aspiring aerobatic pilot. And he said, aside from Sunrise Aviation, do you have any recommendations where one can get aerobatic training?
Yeah, like you said, Sunrise Aviation. It's funny that he mentioned that. Michael Church, that's up in Orange County, and that's a really good school. I also recommend another school a little closer to my home, is Chambliss Air Service out in Arizona. They've got Great Lakes, which is a really cool, you know, old style biplane, and you get an opportunity to fly that. It's open cockpit, and it's just good. You know, you go down, and I think they have, you know, 5 and 10 hour aerobatic courses. So, you know, it gives you that opportunity to, you know, do it and see all that kind of stuff with somebody else before you see it on your own. I mean, some of these airplanes, especially like the Edge and the Pitts, will, you know, basically the rate of rotation is 1 1/4 times in a second. So it's eye-watering how fast it is. And, you know, it's just another maneuver, you know. I mean, it's like, oh my God, a flat spin. You know, there's no mystery to it. You know, they put the airplane over here, it's in, and this is out. But you have to know how to do that. And it is just very disoriented. So it's better to do that with a, you know, good aerobatic instructor. And they have that, you know, Chambliss Air Service down there.
Cool. John, I've got a question from Bruce Holt. What is your most favorite jump and why?
That's very hard for me to answer. I've led a very spoiling life when it comes to jumping around the world. You know, it's I can give you kind of a list of them because I can't name one. Or I'll start with the first one that came to my mind because it was just so surreal. I was lucky enough to be part of the stunt team that did the flying for Transformers 3, where we were lucky enough to be able to close down downtown Chicago for 7 square blocks. And we were able to fly wingsuits through all the city, flying by the Sears Tower, called Willis Tower now. We're the first people to ever jump off of it. And also flying by the big Trump building, down the river. And that was very, very special because everything about that should be illegal, but the fact that we were doing it legally and getting paid for it made it way high up on the top 3. And then just recently, there's nothing over spectacular about this, lucky on our web series our team has called Miles Above. In season 3, we went back to my hometown in Juneau, Alaska. And given that it's such a small town and connections are really easy to make, on a Sunday night, we had an idea because I had said I'd always wanted to fly a wingsuit over downtown where all the cruise ships are and land at the cruise ship docks, basically the center of where I grew up. And within 2 hours, we had full clearance. Everybody was approved. And next thing I know, the next morning, I was flying a wingsuit over my hometown, landed, and I got given the key to the city by the mayor, who used to be my history teacher. So not necessarily the most exciting jump, but as that one moved way up high on the top 10. But I could go on and on. I've been very lucky and blessed in my career and have a lot of really cool jump stories. But jumping in Switzerland is definitely my favorite place to travel to jump. Okay,
cool. I've got a kind of a follow-up to that one in Alaska. They asked, what was it like skiing the unridables in Alaska's backcountry?
Yeah, that was a dream come true. That was a dream project that I don't think the stars will ever align like that again to make that happen. It was very special. The sports speed riding, for those that don't know, it's a combination of big mountain skiing with a parachute over your head. So it allows you to ski really big heli lift access mountains, but ski lines that have never been skied before because they close out with cliffs, glaciers, couloirs, what have you. And at any time you can fly with your wing and reattach to the mountain and ski again. So when we did the unridables, that sport was still quite young. It still is, but it's becoming more mainstream. But being able to go to my home state and really kind of be at the forefront of the sports speed riding and kind of be able to put it on the map was really just a full circle for me, from my childhood dreams, looking up at the mountains, wondering like, will I ever be able to get up in those big mountains and play, to all of a sudden here I am with film cameras and doing the sport I love. It was very surreal for me, that whole project.
Super cool. Thank you. Kirby, we'll come back to you. This question from Herman Pays. What is your favorite airplane, maneuver, and why?
Well, first of all, I have to say I'm a little bit surprised that Jon didn't say one of it in the top 10, that I'm in the top 10 when I got to skydive with him. But, you know, I'm that guy. I've got, let's see, 1,200 jumps, but I always say I have one jump 1,200 times. I never learn anything. But I have a lot of fun. But anyway, as far as my favorite airplane, people are going to be surprised at this. I have a 3/4 scale Fiesler Storch. And it's like a dirt bike with wings. The stalling speed is 22 miles an hour. You can maneuver like crazy and just about turn inside of a room, you know, at 35 miles an hour. And we fly really low to the ground. You can land anywhere, you know, over by the mountains and hike. And I mean, just basically anywhere. I can take off in 50 feet and land in less. So I have a blast with that airplane. You know, then of course, I mean, I love the edges. I've been flying those, I'll date myself, since 1993. And it's evolved over the years. I was fortunate enough to be the test pilot on it from 93 till 2005, and taking an airplane that just continued to get better and better and better. And as you would see in the Red Bull Air Race, out of the 14, 13 were, you know, Edge 540s or some version of it. So it's an airplane that, you know, I always say that basically your imagination is your limitation. So yeah, I really, really enjoy flying that airplane and you know, putting on displays for everybody. And I always say kind of, it's like the sky's my canvas and the airplane's my paintbrush, and I'm out there to paint that, you know, perfect picture in the sky. So
that's a great analogy. And then follow-up question from that, from Bruce, is what do you fly when you're not flying aerobatics? And I think we gave this away with some pictures earlier, but I'll let you talk to it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, so well, I mean, our 600, I love that airplane. It's a Piper M600, and Piper was nice enough to help us out with that. But it's a great airplane range, and you know, we had a 500 for 8 years, but the 600 is just it's a whole different level, and it'll carry a lot. It'll go a long ways, and it's just a great airplane. It's got the Garmin 3000 touchscreen, so I enjoy flying that. But again, probably the Storch is what I really, really enjoy flying. And it's, I don't think you have any pictures of it, but it's just such a cool airplane. And, I've been flying it forever. And when my daughter was 2 or 3 years old, she loves ducks, and we'd go out and chase the ducks up. And it's the only airplane that, you can stay behind the ducks and you don't run over them. You just kind of stay behind them and make them crazy. And you can chase horses and deers and coyotes and all kinds of stuff with it. So we have a blast doing that.
That's cool. John, I know the answer to this because I got to meet a couple of them last year, but Anne is asking, are there any Lady Red Bull Air Force team members?
Yeah. Currently, we only have one, unfortunately, on the team. So right now we have one lady, Amy Shimalecki, and she's an amazing athlete. I met her in her first year of skydiving, like Kirby said, to date myself, back in, I think I met her in 96 or 7. But yeah, she's never let up. She's, to this day, probably the most aggressive jumper on our team, in the sense of still living the skydive life, traveling to skydive events, posting all kinds of world records. And she's really leading the forefront for women skydiving. Her and a group of her all-female teammates in her skydiving team have started a few different projects, one called Project 19, and there's a few others that are all women that celebrate women coming into the sport and really upping the numbers of how many women are in skydiving, because not too long ago, the ratio was very off to men to women, and now it seems to be catching up a lot. Large thanks to Amy and her team and other females that are really pushing the forefront of the sport. And I've challenged Amy to, in her this year, traveling drop zones, even though I don't know how much traveling is going on this year. But in the near future, we will be recruiting some fresh young skydivers, and hopefully at least half, if not more, of who we're looking at are females. And so it's her job to be a big sister and take a couple of younger girls out there under her wing and show them how to turn this passion into a profession for life.
Sweet. Follow-up question to that that a few different folks have asked is one, how do you find those athletes to join your team? And two, for someone that is wanting to get into it, specifically Dee Payette, who skydives frequently and wants to learn to fly wingsuiting, what's the best way to get started?
Well, for the first part of the question, the criteria for the team, it's a tricky thing to answer because it's not a cookie cutter template that we follow. Basically, my few others, identifying other people had tons of skill and had already been very accomplished in skydiving, so we wouldn't really necessarily have to teach somebody how to catch up to where we were. But two, that they clicked with the team, because our team's very much feels like a family of 8 brothers and 1 sister. And so the vibe definitely has to be there. It's really only been recently that we started, as everybody on the Red Bull Air Force team is getting older, we see the need to bring in the younger, fresh talent. And so there's no exact answer to that, but most definitely that we're looking for people that have gone out and have already accomplished things on their own, aren't looking to be Insta famous or YouTube famous, that they're actually putting in a ton of jump numbers, they're living the sport, they're really embedded in it, and not just putting out proposals going, look at me, I'm awesome, I get all these views. So trying to separate that a little bit has been a little bit of a struggle, but we're well on our way. But we've identified quite a few people, and like I mentioned earlier, we were really hoping this year was the year that we could kind of send some of us out kind of almost secretly to drop zones and go to skydive events and just start to get a pulse on who's out there, the up and comers. So my main goal, being one of the main developers of the team, is to not let the team die out when our generation starts to get older and older and move on. So I have a big goal to to really find the right people to come in, put under our wings, and hopefully pass the torch one day. Not too soon, but one day. And then what was the second part of the question? Sorry.
No, you got both parts, but
Okay,
definitely
great.
sounds like a fun experience. And Kirby, I'll let you jump off of John real quick about, I know there's several female stunt pilots and aerobatic pilots, so you can touch on that briefly.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like what John said, you know, you really have to be kind of already at a certain level before, you know, Red Bull's going to look at you. You know, our Challenger series, they've identified quite a few youngsters kind of coming in, but, you know, it's nothing that you can just jump in an airplane and, you know, and a year later you got it. I mean, it takes years and years and years in order to develop the skills to be able to do what, you know, people would say is extreme, but be able to do that, you know, with a level of safety. You know, it's about balancing risk. You know, a lot of times people think, oh, you just go out and do crazy things. Well, no, that's not it at all. You know, when that airplane's going end over end, you know, at 800 feet, I mean, you better know what you're doing or you're not going to be around for very long, that's for sure. So it takes a long time to get to that level. And, you know, but it's just, you know, the same. I mean, I always steer people towards competition aerobatics because, you know, you've got a lot of people watching you, looking at you and giving you advice and, you know, basically taking you under their wing in order to help you, you know, get to a level that you're, first of all, safe, you know, and then as you do that, then you know, lower the altitudes a little bit. And, you know, like I said, you know, people are always like, well, what are you looking at? You know, when the airplane's flipping over and what do you look at this, doing that? And what do you know, gauges? And like, I'm looking at the ground because that's the thing you don't want to hit. If you hit the ground, it's all over. So, but, you know, again, it's all based on experience. And so it takes a while to gather that.
Thanks. I'll start with Kirby and then John, same question. This is from Jim. Do your families or loved ones ever express concern to you over your safety when you're out flying or diving?
For me, sure. You know, I've been married for, you told me 28 years. I'm like, oh my God, it's a long time. But yeah, you know, I think that would be a question for my wife, but yeah, I put her through a lot over the years. And, you know, I raced motocross as a kid. I mean, I love aerobatics. I love speed, all these things. And a funny story is, you know, like I said, I like to skydive too. So I skydive all the time and I'm able to, you know, get advice, really good advice from, you know, some of the best skydivers in the world. One of them we're talking to here. And so, but I told my wife, you know, after I put her through all these different things that I said one day, I said, you know, I'm going to start base jumping, you know, with these guys. And she goes, stop. Just let me ask you, how many different ways do you need to try to kill yourself? And I'm like, okay, I sort of get that. And we went up and, you know, but again, I mean, at least I'm learning from the best. I mean, I was jumping off the bridge with Miles Dasher, who's got like 5,500 base jumps. So I figured, you know, he knows what he's doing. And we went up to his place and, you know, jumped off a 485-foot bridge 3 times. And my grandmother used to ask me, you know, if somebody jumps off a bridge, are you going to follow them? And I never thought I would say yes, but I guess so. But I had a blast doing that. I love that kind of stuff. And yeah, it does take a toll on your family for sure. So I may make a couple more base jumps, but then I'll probably retire from base jumping.
Well, I guess I can stop telling my kids that analogy now after hearing that story.
Yeah.
How about you, John?
Yeah, for me, the answer is most definitely yes. It's growing up in the world of skydiving, we've gone through a lot of changes and new sports have come in, new equipment, and there's been peaks and valleys in the sport when it comes to the danger level of it. And so I've been through it all, and definitely about 10 years ago when wingsuiting became very popular, everybody and their brother's mother was going out to a drop zone to learn to skydive, to get in a wingsuit, to go jump off cliffs, which is the complete wrong recipe, where really you should have thousands of jumps skydiving and you don't need to, but it's just my opinion that you can never have too much time in the big blue air before you go try to take it to a dangerous environment that's unforgiving. So the sport had quite a few dark stories for quite a few years in a row. A lot of accidents, fatal accidents, which really kind of, before that era happened, all of the wives of the Red Bull Air Force team always almost had a joke of like, know, these guys are out there doing the craziest stuff of the whole sport, and nobody even twists an ankle. Like we felt pretty untouchable. And then this part of the sport started getting more popular, and you started knowing like this person that had an accident and this. So it really drove home the fact to not just ourselves, but to our family, that what we're doing is very risky with zero forgiveness. You can't crash in our sport. We're going too fast. So it's very unforgiving. And it takes a toll on the family. You know, it's definitely something the wives have become used to, but they are not fans of it when we're going on big projects and going to jump off big mountains around the world. They understand we're very calculated, and we don't just rush into anything, and we're not afraid to walk back down from a mountain if we're not feeling it. So that puts some comfort that they know that we're making mature decisions up there. But probably the hardest part for me above that would be, as my kids and everybody on the team has kids, as they started getting older, you know, now my oldest is almost 13, and there's from, you know, YouTube and things like that, where she can easily look up the sport and see what can happen in it. So it definitely takes a toll on them too. They don't say it directly, but you can tell when I'm going on a dangerous stunt mission or something that they start getting stressed and kind of strange. So it's a little bit of an emotional roller coaster, but in the end, you know, they know that it's my passion through and through, and that I would be a very depressed guy if it wasn't part of my life. And they want me to be happy, and they realize that I take every precaution, you know, under the sun to stay safe and come home. So they trust me, but it is tough.
That's cool. Couple of related questions to this, specifically about overcoming fear, and is it a learned ability or something innate? So I'll start with that one and just have you both briefly answer that one. Do you have to train yourself to overcome fear? Is that a piece of you, or do you feel like that's something you've been able to learn, or you've just not had a low fear tolerance in general?
You know, for me, you know, I grew up racing motorcycles and love speed. And again, we try to do everything calculated, but, you know, you learn from that. I mean, experience is, you know, if you know what to do, you're not afraid. People are like, oh God, you know, you broke that, this happened. And, you know, again, you know, you have to know what to do. So you don't really have time to think, oh my God, this is dangerous, or, you know, but you have to have that experience. And I can't, you know, say that strongly enough, is you have to have that experience to be able to draw from. And that takes a long time. So do you train yourself? I guess so, a little bit, but, you know, as you know more and more about it, and you know how to react to something, then you're not afraid of it, and you also understand it more. And again, that just takes time. You know, like Jon said, I mean, you know, the dirty side of my sport for sure is that we lose a lot of friends, and you know, that's an unfortunate thing. And I have people call me, you know, up and coming aerobatic pilots, and, you know, they want to fly displays or, you know, race or whatever. And, you know, they call me and they're like, oh my God, so-and-so, you know, and it's horrible. But, you know, I tell them, you know, I go, you know, basically have two choices. You can either quit, or you can just try not to let it be you, you know. And so that's what you need to do, is try not to let it be you. And the way that you do that is you practice all the time. But there's still things that, you know, if you break something big and you're low to the ground, and, you know, it's probably not going to go so well for you. But yeah, again, you know, like Jon said, you know, you love it. I mean, it's always been part of my life. I always say, you know, you wake up in the morning and you go, is it worth it to me? And I've always been able to answer that question. Yes, it's still worth it to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. And for me, you know, to mirror what Kirby's saying, is currency is everything. With whether you're big wave surfing or skydiving or racing airplanes, you're the most safe if you're current and practiced, where everything happens with muscle memory and you're not having to think it through. So something I always tell people a lot is I think that the number one thing you can do in any sport to inside, learn how to control your inner animal, kind of like that angel and devil talking to you on the two shoulders. That, you know, yes, there's plenty of times that I've jumped off a cliff and there's some line I want to fly, and I got a devil over here going, yeah, faster, lower, faster, yeah, the trees are going by. And over here, the angel's saying like, hey, why don't you bump it up 10 feet? It's going to be the same flight. You're minimizing risk, you know, and learning how to communicate with yourself internally, kind of in those nanosecond moments where on video it was only a second, but you thought you had a 2-minute dialogue with yourself in your head. Being able to identify that in the moment and be able to control your inner animal is key, I think, to staying safe. And being current and being active and doing what you do repetitively allows you to be that calm mentally in those situations. So it all comes back to being trained, not getting in over your head, and just making smart decisions.
Jon, you mentioned kids, and there's another question here for Kirby, also talking about children. For both of you, are either of your kids interested in following your footsteps or go on jumps or flights with you or learning how to fly?
Yeah, from my side, you know, my daughter, yeah, she actually flies the airplane fairly well. At one time, I think she was going to be an airline pilot because she's like, oh, so many of dad's friends are airline pilots and they're not that smart. So sure, I can do that. No, I'm just kidding about that, but something like that. But what's amazing is that, you know, again, like I said, I'm a buffoon skydiver. I like to play around in the wind tunnels, and you know, we're 20 minutes from Skydive Arizona, and they've been nice enough in order to let my daughter continue her growth. And so we went into the wind tunnel, and she took to it just being amazing. I mean, she's amazing. She just took second place at the U.S. Nationals, and she made the U.S. team. So she's going to have that opportunity to go over and represent the United States and Belgium, hopefully in October at the World Championship. So she's not going to follow in my footsteps. She wants to follow in Jon's footsteps and those guys, but she's amazing free flyer. I mean, she's in there at 150 mile an hour wind, and they're doing ballet and stuff. She comes from a gymnastic background and also some dance, and it's amazing what they can do in there. I'm struggling to just fly head down in the tunnel, and my daughter can get in there and just fly circles around me. And when we're together flying, the thing is, if we hit each other, it was her fault. She's so much better than I am. I'm like, just get out of my way. But I have a blast doing that. And, just watching your kid have so much passion for something, no matter what kind of flying it is. And my daughter definitely does that for indoor skydiving.
That's so cool.
She's an
apple
angel.
Doesn't fall far from the tree, I guess. How about you, Jon? What are your kiddos into? Are they jumping off your house with wingsuits and stuff?
They're definitely adventurous and charge hard at everything. I kind of at an early stage, I decided that I really wanted them to decide what they wanted to do on their own, and so I didn't want to inundate them too much with skydive life. So even though I didn't necessarily keep them away from it, but compared to some drop zone families where the kids are always around and you just know they're going to turn into a professional skydiver because that's all they know. I wanted them to really have that want before I supported it. And right now my kids one's almost 13 and the other one's 10. And so they're young. Every other month they're changing what they would do when they grow up, so who knows, but they display enough of a risk-taking, thrill-seeking personality, whether it's we go skiing or jumping off cliffs in the water or you name it. They charge pretty hard. So it wouldn't surprise me if one of them wants to do it, but truth be told, it's really, really hard to make a living in our sport. There's some of us blessed few that found the right recipe. So I've told them over and over again that unless it's just something you can't live without, maybe up your skills in other arenas and you can still be a skydiver, but I don't really have a desire for them to follow in my footsteps, but ready to support it if they want to.
Cool. Good answer. Kirby, a couple questions about Red Bull Air Race. And do you think it'll make a comeback? Wondered if you would touch on that briefly.
Sure. There's rumors. There was a rumor that, it was going to start first quarter of 2021. Not under the Red Bull banner, but under a different banner. All I hear is rumors. I'm not really associated with that. As a race pilot, I mean, I get emails and, hey, would you like to, participate in this or that? And so I hope that it does, because I think, you know, it's been so great for aviation, and I'm a big, you know, supporter of general aviation. It's been so good to me, and I love it. And I hope it does come back, because it's inspired, you know, thousands of people. It's the same as, you know, air shows is the same, you know, but with the Red Bull Air Race, the being on TV and everything and so visible, you know, I have people come up to me, I mean, just out of the blue, and, oh my God, I saw you racing and so, you know, it's the coolest thing. And so I think it's one of the coolest things in aviation. So I hope that it does come back. But all I know is, just like I said, I hear rumors. So we'll see what happens.
I hope it does.
Me too. Yeah. I love those. All right, so we're starting to run out on time, but one question I wanted to talk to you both, and it's one of the core values of Angel Flight, is safety. Jon, you touched on this briefly in person with me when we were planning the jump in LA, but can you talk both about your flights? And I know sometimes you do them together, where you've got jumpers and then Kirby's flying around them. Can you talk about your approach and planning process when you have a creative idea that you want to see come to fruition, what that process looks like between your teams?
Yeah. For me, it's project or specific, you know, how much detail we go into the planning and preparation for everything. But in the end, it's everything. You're not gonna do it another day if you don't plan it correctly with some of these stunts. You know, case in like the Supermoon project in LA, where flying by the Intercontinental building and opening in between buildings, it was you know, definitely a hair-raising stunt. And so we really had to set all kinds of parameters that we were just not willing to break, everywhere from wind conditions, wind directions, street closures, and the list goes on and on. And so you have to really dive into the nuts and bolts of whatever the project or mission is, and not just be worried about what the prize is, but really go through all the what ifs. And that's something that we take a lot of pride in on the Red Bull Air Force team. We've been doing live shows. 1997 was the first one. We really got cranking in 1999, early 2000s, where we were doing up to 70 plus shows a year. And we have after all these years, we have a 100% success rate. We have never been injured on a show. It's never gone wrong. And all of that comes down to the team being calculated and very diligent on thinking through every little nuance that might happen. So preparation is everything.
Kirby?
Yeah, so like what Jon said, I mean, you know, the preparation is everything. And just trying to think of, you know, all the different ones that I've done, but probably like when I landed on the Las Vegas Strip down there. And, you know, we go down and do a site survey, and you know how tight it is. And then, you know, all this money is, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, they've gotten permission, and, you know, how you have the police involved and the fire involved. I mean, shutting down the roads and all these different things that have got to happen, that somebody spent a lot of money to make sure that happened. And then you've got to be willing to pull the plug on it if you go, well, the conditions aren't right. I mean, for instance, down there, I literally had 3 feet from the fence, and when I landed on that road, and 3 feet from the, you know, telephone poles, clearance, and that's it, you know. And so you've got to put it down on that road, and we had to do it where not only did I have to land on it, and then I had to, for a couple of the shots, I had to basically raise the tail again. And in these aerobatic airplanes, you can't even see over the nose. They don't have any flaps that come in really fast. Everybody always equates flying one of these. If you can ride a tricycle 90 miles an hour backwards, then you should be good to go. So, you know, when you've got 3 feet on each wingtip, I mean, it's tight. And, you know, again, with that experience, to me, the wings are just kind of an extension of my arms. I fly it so much, I'm that familiar with the airplane. But still, you know, if there's a big crosswind or, you know, different things going on, you know, the sun's not right or whatever, you try to plan all those things out. But you still got to be willing at the end of the day, because you know it's got to be 100%. You can't make a mistake, you know. So you've got to be willing to just say the conditions aren't right, boom, I'm pulling the plug on it. And that's where, you know, Red Bull is so good about that. I mean, they want it to be safe, and, you know, that's what they're shooting for, and that's the most important thing. So I probably put myself under more pressure than anybody else. You know, I mean, if I pulled the plug on it, they would just say, Kirby's the expert. He said it can't happen in this kind of condition. It's just not going to happen. So we spend all that money. So what? You know, and we just don't do it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's easy, as you said, Jon, to look at the YouTube videos and be like, sweet, I can do that. And people don't realize all the planning that goes behind it and all the safety decisions that make. So thank you for doing that. We always want to encourage our volunteers to do the same. And I just want to thank the two of you so much for taking the time out of your Friday to come and join us and speak. You guys are awesome and my new heroes. So thank you so much. And any words in closing that you'd like to share?
Well, for me, I mean, again, I'm thankful to be a part, you know, of the Angel Flight West. I'm excited too. You know, everything that I've been doing now is, you know, carrying boxes. And so on both the 7th and the 10th, I'm going to get an opportunity to fly a young man for his cancer treatment. And, you know, I'm looking forward to that experience too. And just being able to help somebody else out. And so, but thank you for the opportunity. And I want to encourage everybody to, you know, volunteer and to donate because it's such a great organization. And thank you, Josh, for what you do. Appreciate it.
Cheers. Thanks, Kirby.
Yeah, I'll just mirror what Kirby said exactly. And everybody get out there and go make at least one skydive in your life. Check.
I've got to make another one. Thanks, Jon. And thanks everyone for attending today. I know we didn't get to a lot of questions. We had a lot of great ones, so we'll try to follow up with those in our recap. We'll also be sharing this as a video later to those that couldn't attend and to those that did attend, so feel free to share that link out. And again, just want to thank you so much for your support and for taking action with us. Like I mentioned at the top, volunteering, donating, and sharing our story with those either who need us or who want to get more involved. Please do that, and thank you. I'd be remiss not to share more cool videos. And by the way, there's some links in here of, if you scroll back through the chat, of the Red Bull Air Force team. So I would encourage you all to follow Jon Devore and Kirby Chambliss on their channels and the Red Bull channels too. Some just awesome videos and cool projects that they're always doing. So we're going to close with a couple of those videos. But again, just want to thank everyone. If you have any questions or concerns, you know, feel free to reach out to the office. Our number is 310-390-2958. You can reach me anytime at josho@angelflightwest.org. And our social channels too are always /AngelFlightWest. So feel free to follow us and follow along there. And we look forward to joining you for the next virtual pilot lounge soon. But again, thank you to all our supporters. You know, I mentioned Alaska, Southwest, Alex Poldy, some other folks at the beginning, but don't have enough time to list everyone. I wish I did, but thank you very much. And we hope you have a great weekend. And with that, enjoy these videos.
We do a combined show in the United States, kind of a combined thing from a lot of different aerial disciplines in the box at one time.
Red Bull, boss. Red Bull, go.